So just to say to people as well that the recording will be sent out to you by email in the next couple of days. So let's get going then. Welcome back, everybody, to week number 2 of our BrailleSense 6, the Essentials training course. Hope everybody enjoyed last week. We covered an awful lot of stuff. In some respects, I felt we were trying to cram in a lot, so it's kind of maybe useful feedback for me to think about if we're going to run this again, how we might split it out a little bit. So again, my name is Stuart Lawler from Sight and Sound Technology, and my colleague Fionnuala Murphy, also from Sight and Sound Technology, is here with me to help moderate the session this evening. Similar format to last week, I'm going to do a presentation for about 35-40 minutes, and then we'll have time for questions. And so please make sure to, and please feel free rather to ask your questions. And if you'd like to do that, you can raise your hand. You can click the raise hand button on Zoom, or you can click into the chat area of Zoom and type a question if you feel more comfortable in doing that. And whether your questions are relating to tonight's topic or not, we're happy to try and answer them as best we can. As I did say last week, there may be some occasions where we take things offline and ask you to contact us separately. So tonight it's email, next week it's word processing. So we're talking all about email tonight. I'm going to talk a little bit about some challenges a moment just around email in general and online security. Then we're going to go into the email application and set up an account. And then we'll have a bit of a play around with sending emails, receiving emails, managing file attachments, and searching for messages. And if we get through all that, we'll be pretty happy. So before we start demonstrating the email application on the BrailleSense 6, there's a few things I want to flag for you around online security in general. You will all, I'm sure, be aware of significant challenges around online security. I think anybody who is working is probably aware of enhanced security that your workplace may have brought in the last little while. This is in some respects resulting, it's I suppose as a result of some of the cyber attacks that we've heard about over the last couple of years on major organizations, which has been hugely damaging for their data. And organizations are trying to secure their information as best they can. And big providers like Microsoft and Google have a responsibility, therefore, to make sure that their services are as watertight as they can be. So when security gets updated and when something happens and the tech sector reacts and security gets updated, because we are running specialist technology and because the BrailleSense 6 is a specialist device, it may not always get the security update at the same time. So if Google makes a change to the way it allows people, for example, to log into email, the BrailleSense 6 may be a little bit behind that because the people who manufacture the BrailleSense 6 are not necessarily given any advance warning of this. And we've had a couple of issues. Those of you who were around in schools last year will have known we had problems with Google. We had problems with Microsoft, and it took a number of weeks for those problems to be fixed. So I suppose the caveat for this evening's session is that, these things may happen again. And I suppose the assistive technology companies do their best to react as quickly as they can, but it's not always immediate because things have to be tested and the new protocols, etc., have to be tested. So there may be some occasions where online things do not work as expected. Hopefully that's not going to happen tonight. And we're going to have a look at the email application. So let's go back to a point of reference. If I press the F1 key,
File Manager.
Our BrailleSense says File Manager, and we're back at the top of the main menu. Now, last week I told you all the ways that you could browse and open programs on the BrailleSense 6. There were many of them. One of them is pressing the first letter of the name of the application that you want. So if we had pressed the letter F, it would open the File Manager. If we press the letter W, it would open the word processor. And if we press the letter E, it will open the email. Now, I'm setting up as fresh with email, so there is nothing configured at the moment. So let's see what happens when I press E to open the email application.
You must create at least one mail account from the Accounts Manager in the Tools menu. Accounts Manager dialog. Account name, no list item.
So when I open the email application, it tells me you must create at least one account. So it needs some kind of an email account or service in order to send and receive emails. Otherwise, the application can do nothing. And it brings me into something called the Email Accounts Manager. And in the Accounts Manager, we can add an email account. We can add more than one email account. You could have your home account. You could have, your personal account, your school account, some other account. You can add as many as you want. We can modify accounts. We can get information on accounts, and we can delete accounts. You move through the options in this screen by pressing the Tab key. That is either function key F3, we talked about the function keys last week, or if you prefer to keep your hands on the Braille keyboard, you can hit space with dots 4 and 5. That's dot 4, 5 chord. So let me just tab around this box so you can hear the options.
Information dialog button.
This is the information button. That button won't do anything at the moment because there's nothing to give information on. We don't have any accounts.
Add dialog button.
This is the add button.
Modify dialog button.
The modify button if we wanted to make changes to an already added email account.
Delete button.
And the delete button if we want to delete an account.
Close button.
And this is the close button that closes us out of this screen. Now,
information.
There are also shortcut keys for all these options. And my device has been tweaked slightly, so it's not speaking the shortcuts. Your device will hopefully do that for you. So the shortcut key to add an account is Enter and A, but equally you could tab to that add button and press Enter. So I'm going to press Enter and A to add an email account.
Add dialog. Default mail server, IMAP radio button.
We're going to be presented with a number of options here that we have to select different pieces of information. I will explain them as best I can, but bear in mind that different schools and different people use different types of email services. The most popular are Google and Microsoft, so I'll talk a little bit about both. The first option here asks us to choose the type of email server or system that we're going to use, and there are a couple of options. The first is called IMAP. And when you use IMAP email, your emails are stored on a server centrally, somewhere in the world. And you connect to the server with an email program like that on the BrailleSense 6 to manage your emails, to read them, to create new ones, to reply to them, or to delete them. So that's all being done centrally. What's the advantage of that? The advantage is that you can access this on multiple devices. So I could access this email address on my BrailleSense 6, and I could also access it on my phone. And if I've read a message on my BrailleSense 6, it'll show up as being read on my phone. So that's IMAP, and we will come back to IMAP. But I want to hit the space bar to bring you through the other options in this screen and show you what other type of email addresses are supported.
Exchange, MS, radio button.
This is Exchange MS. And Exchange MS is Microsoft Exchange or Microsoft Office 365. Some people will know this as. And this is Microsoft's email protocol. It's very popular. It's very flexible. It synchronizes centrally. It's the one that we happen to use in Sight and Sound as well. So it's one that we're very familiar with. I'm going to hit the spacebar again.
Exchange, server, radio button.
This is the older Microsoft Exchange system, which is still in use in some places, and it requires a different type of login. I don't think anyone's going to use this, but it's around in case it's needed.
POP3 radio button.
This is POP3. POP3 was the original email protocol back in the day, and POP3 essentially means that all your messages are downloaded to your device. The advantage of POP3 is that if you are somewhere where you don't have access to the internet, and if you're offline, you can still view messages on your device because they have been downloaded previously. But the disadvantage, and it's a rather big one, is that if something happens to that device, those emails are gone and they're not stored anywhere else because POP3 takes them off the server and puts them on one piece of technology only, or one device only. So POP3 is not a secure protocol anymore, and it's generally not used. I'm going to hit the spacebar again.
IMAP radio button.
And we're back to IMAP. As it happens, we're going to use IMAP this evening to set up an account. So I'm now going to press the F3 key to move me to the next option in this dialog box, in this list of information, or this form that we have to fill in order to set up our email account.
Server type, manual 1 list item.
There are 4 server types that the BrailleSense 6 has sort of set up for us, or you could call them profiles if you want. The first server type is manual. This is where you fill in your server information. And this would be if you had a specific email address that wasn't Gmail or that wasn't Microsoft. And to be quite honest, in most cases, people are using Gmail or Microsoft. But if you had a specific email address, you would go here. I don't really have time to show you how you would do that because there are any number of configurations for all types of emails, but you can contact us if you have specific questions. Now, to move through this dialog, I'm going to scroll down. So that's .4 with the space bar to move down through this menu.
Google 4 list item.
There's Google. So Google is the protocol or the profile that I want. And when I select Google, I will be confident that the BrailleSense 6 has filled in all the technical information about Google that I mightn't necessarily know, but that is obviously important for me to make sure that my account is configured correctly. There are 2 other options here.
Outlook 4 list item.
There's Outlook, the old Microsoft Outlook email addresses, which was also linked to Hotmail addresses for anyone who has Hotmail.
SAMnet 4 list.
And there's something called SAMnet, which is really only used in the US. So we don't tend to have SAMnet here. So I'm going to go back to Google.
Outlook Google 4 list item.
And I'm now going to press the F3 key to go to the next option in this form.
Account name, Google edit box.
This is the account name. It doesn't matter what you call this. It's just a point of reference for yourself. If you had multiple email addresses, you might call one school, you might call one personal. I don't know, maybe you're a member of a club and they have it. You have an email address for that club. You might call it club. I'm just going to leave this as Google. I'm happy enough to call it Google for the moment.
Display name, edit box.
This is your display name. So what name do you want to pop up on this email every time you send a message to somebody? What do you want them to see as your display name? This will normally be your first and last name. In my case, I've set up a test email for the BrailleSense 6. So I'm actually going to call it BrailleSense 6. So I'm going to just type this in now in UEB, contracted Braille. And
BrailleSense 6 space.
So there's BrailleSense 6. And now I'm going to press the F3 key again.
Email address, edit box.
So now I need to type in the email address. And the email address is, and I have to think about it for a sec. Yes, so it's BrailleSense 6 Stuart at gmail.com. Now that's quite a long email address. I'm going to read it back and make sure it's okay.
BrailleSense 6 Stuart gmail.com.
I'm going to do something, and you'll see in a minute why I've done this, to save myself, because I'm going to be asked to type it in again in a sec. I'm going to copy this email address to my clipboard. I'm not going to go through how I'm doing that today, because we will be looking at copying text next week in the word processor. But you'll see in a sec why I'm doing this.
Select all. Copy complete.
Now I'm going to press F3 again.
Log on username, edit box.
The logon username in Gmail is the same as your email address. I don't want to have to type this in again, so I'm going to just paste it in.
Paste.
And there it is.
BrailleSense 6 Stuart gmail.com.
And I'm going to press F3 again.
Sign in with Google button.
Okay, so now there is a button here that says sign in with Google. Now you might think we weren't asked for our password, which we weren't, but we will on the next screen. The next screen is something that is called authentication. It's where Google authenticates to verify that we are who we say we are. And it does this by opening a web browser and getting us to sign into the Google service and validate the login and the BrailleSense 6 email application. And this is the new sign-in method that both Google and Microsoft have used from last year. And this is the one of the issues that caused the specialist technology tools to stop working with email for a couple of weeks last year. So I'm going to press enter here to launch a browser. Now, when I do this, it's going to open a browser online, and I'm going to be pressing the F3 key to navigate through this page. I should stress you only need to do this once. And in most cases, not all, but in most cases, when a device comes from Sight and Sound Technology and we visit your school, if there is email to be set up, we'll do that for you. So you don't have to go through this, but it is useful for me to go through the process for you. So I'm going to press enter here.
Checking account. Chrome. WebView sign in. Google Accounts. WebView.
Now it's opened up a little Chrome page and it's asking me to sign into my Google account. So I'm going to scroll down through this and let's see what it's saying.
Sign in with Google. Choose an account. Heading 1 to continue to. Button BrailleSense email. Button press enter to activate.
So it wants me to choose an account.
Button Stuart Lawler Sight and Sound Technology IE. Link 1 of 2 to items. Press enter to activate.
So that's not the account I want.
Button use another account. Link 2 of 2. Press enter to activate.
So there's an option, use another account. So I'm going to press enter here.
Stuart Lawler Sight and Sound Technology IE.
And I'm going to scroll.
Stuart Lawler Sight and Sound Tech. Button help and feedback. Press enter. Stuart Lawler Sight signed into Google as heading. Button Stuart Lawler button manage your Google button add account to device 6 of 9. Press enter to activate.
There's an option here that says add account to device. Now it's worth noting that when you do this, if you're doing this for the first time, there won't be an account on the device at all. It's just that I have my work email on this device as well. So if you are asked to add an account, it will be the first account. You won't have to go through this. You'll just have to type in the email address, which I'm going to do on the next screen.
Checking info, out of list. Checking info. WebView sign in with your Google account.
So
learn more. WebView button Google sign in. Google. Sign in. Heading with your Google account. Button learn more about edit box email or phone. Press enter to edit text.
So it says here email or phone. That's my email address or my phone number is what it wants. And it says press enter to edit text. So I have to press enter to open the edit box. And then I type in BrailleSense 6 Stuart@gmail.com. And I will press F3.
Button forgot email. Button next.
And
button press
next,
enter to activate.
And I'll press enter on next.
Button next. BrailleSense Braille keyboard.
And now I'm going to be asked for
edit box password.
My password.
Edit box, enter your password.
And I'm going to type in the password for this account. And I'm going to go again to next.
Checkbox not show password.
There's a helpful tick box there, which you can press enter on if you want to see the password on screen. And this can be useful, especially for somebody who may not know Braille and you're relying on someone else to enter the Braille, to enter the password in Braille for you, and you want to just double check on the screen that it's okay. And
button next.
I'm going to press
button press enter to activate. WebView Stuart Lawler. WebView.
Okay, so now I've signed into my Google account. It has recognized my name because it said Stuart Lawler.
Button Google Stuart Lawler. Google. Stuart Lawler. Heading BrailleSense 6 Stuart gmail.com.
That's the email address.
Document we publish this so that we publish that.
So now it wants me to agree to some Google terms of service. So I'm just going to scroll past
these. Also agree button Google to enable and remember button privacy policy describes how Google button I agree.
I'll
button
press enter on
to
I agree. I have to do this in order to get to the next screen. I have to agree to their terms and conditions.
Chrome. WebView sign in. Google accounts. WebView.
And now I'm going to be asked,
button BrailleSense email.
Do I want to allow the BrailleSense email application to have access to my Google account? And yes, I do, because I need to use that to send and receive emails.
But before using this app, button privacy
I'm scrolling past all their blurb about their privacy, etc.
Drop-down list, button help, button privacy, button terms, button annotation, button share audio on, button share press enter to act, button disabled accounts google.com disabled, button connection is secure press button close to button BrailleSense button privacy in terms of drop down button help link button privacy link button terms button annotation button share audio on button share buttons button disabled accounts google.com Web view sign in with Google. Choose an account. To continue to. Button BrailleSense. Button Stuart Lawler BrailleSense 6 Stuart
I think it wants me to sign in again. I'm not sure why that's happening.
Successfully added account.
Oh, there we go.
Account name.
Okay.
Google 11 list item.
Now, I did this 2 days ago to test this account, and there was a slightly different sign-in process. So you can see that Google changed these things very quickly. I got thrown there by the because the screens were slightly different to what I expected. So this stuff is very fluid, I suppose. Anyway, we have created now our Google account. I'm going to close the email application for a sec. So the shortcut key that we mentioned last week that we love is space and Z.
Account name, Google 11 list item.
And I'm going to close that again.
Exiting email. And this meeting is being recorded.
I'm going to go back to my main menu, and this time I'm going to open email again with the letter E. Before I do that, just to say 2 things. If you managed to stay with us for the last 8 or so minutes, I'm really impressed, because that was heavy stuff. It's not something most people are going to have to do, I hope, more than once, but I did want to bring you through the whole experience of creating an email account. The second thing I want to say is that the email app, I mentioned last week that there will be some applications and some things that I show that will be different to what you see on maybe your device, and the email application is one of them, and you'll see this in a sec. So I'm going to press the letter E.
Google getting new message list.
And it's
unread, 1 attached. Stuart Lawler, another attachment for review.
Okay, so now I have opened my Google inbox, and there are a couple of unread emails there that we'll look at in a minute, and some of them have attachments. Before we start experimenting with email, I do want to show you some things that we might want to change in here to make the reading of email a little more efficient for students. So let me just let you hear the properties of the current message that we're sitting on.
Unread, 1 attached. Stuart Lawler, another attachment for review Thursday, September 21st, 2023 05, 19 p.m. 3 list item.
So just to explain what's happening there, it says unread. So the message is unread. It hasn't been opened yet. It says 1 attached. So that's telling me that there is an attachment. It says from Stuart Lawler. It's from the message I sent to myself. The subject is file attachment, and then it gives the date on which the message was sent and the time on which it was sent. You can configure that to read slightly differently. So you may have somebody who maybe you just want to hear the sender of the message and the subject. Maybe you don't want to hear the date and time. To do that, we can go into the options of the mail application to make some changes. Now, if you remember when I was talking about the function keys last week, I mentioned to you that F2 brings you into the menu relative to the application that you are in. In this case, it's the email application. So we'll press F2.
File pull-down menu.
And we're at the File menu. I'm going to press space with the .4 to get to the Tools menu.
Edit pull-down menu. Tools pull-down menu.
I'm going to press Enter.
Accounts Manager dialog menu item.
Well, we were in the Accounts Manager a few minutes ago to create an account. I'm not going through that pain again, but let's go down.
Set Path dialog menu item.
I'm not going to go to Set Path.
Set Options dialog menu item.
Set Options, and I just want to come in here.
Default Mail Server. Google 1-2 list item.
So there's a few things here I'm going to show you. The default mail server, that means the mail server that will open when you open the email application, and that is Google. So that's messages are going to come in from Google. Now, as it turns out, there is no other email account on the device at the moment.
Use as default sent from account. Google 11 list item.
Use as the default send from account. So when I send any new messages, they'll come from Google. That's fine. And by the way, I'm pressing F3 to move through these options.
Number of messages to receive. 3216 list item.
This one is important. Number of messages to receive every time the device sends or receives. This is, so this will tell the BrailleSense 6 how many emails it should pull from the server. It's currently set to 32, but we can change it.
3216, 6426 list item.
64.
9636 list item. 12846 list up. 1056 list item. All 66 list item.
So you could retrieve all your messages from Google if you wanted, but I'm going to bring it back to 32.
3216 list item.
And the reason I would bring it to 32 or maybe 64 at a time is because if you are in a place where there's poor Wi-Fi, this may have an impact on performance. I'm going to press F3 again.
Exchange, server, message list type, simple 1-2 list item.
This option is not relevant in this context because we're not connected to Microsoft Exchange or Office 365. So I'm going to press F3.
Display header labels, no 1-2 list item.
I have chosen not to display header labels. If I displayed header labels, it would say things like subject, date, from. So I have turned those off. They are turned on by default, and for some people, they may be helpful.
First mail header, from 2-4 list item.
Here's where you can configure your headers. So there are 4 headers you can configure. In my case, the first mail header is from. If I wanted to change that, I can press the space with .4.
Date 3-4 list to 4-4 list item.
Or space with .1.
Date from 2 subject 1-4 list item.
To switch these headers around so that this means I can change the order in which information about a particular message is read to me.
From 2-4 list item.
So that's from.
Second mail header, subject 1-4 list item.
Subject.
Third mail header, date 1-3 list item.
Let's turn off date.
Date 1-3 lit to 2 off 3-3 list item. Fourth mail header, off 3-3 list item.
So now all we're going to get when we save these settings is our from, who the message is from, and the subject. And you hear that now in a sec.
Sort order, ascending 2-2 list item.
This is the sort order for messages. You can have them ascending or descending. So the newest messages at the top or the newest messages at the bottom.
Confirm button.
And the confirm button, when we press enter, will save our changes.
Successfully saved. Unread, 1 attached. Stuart Lawler, another attachment for review 3-3 list item.
So now it just says unread, Stuart Lawler, another attachment for review. It does say then 3/3. That's message 3 out of a total of 3 in the inbox. This is a small inbox. This is not my main work inbox, I hasten to add. Okay, so let's send a message. Let's send an email, just a basic email, and see how we do that. So to send an email, we press enter and W, and you may wonder why W, and it took me a while to get my head around why they chose W, but W is to write new mail. And you will also find these shortcuts in the menu. If you are unsure, you can press F2 to browse the menus. So I'm going to press enter and W.
For 2, edit box.
And now the BrailleSense says 2, and then it says edit box, and my cursor is showing in this edit box where I can type the email address of the person that I want to send the email to. There are 2 ways to send an email at this point. We can simply type in the email of the person, so the address of the person that we want to send the email to in UEB, because I'm still in contracted Braille. Or I can use what's called the address list. Now, I don't want to get into the kind of the complexities of the address list tonight, but what I will say is that the address list can be very useful if you set it up. It's a way to list all your contacts. We mentioned it very briefly, I think, last week when we were talking about something called the Address Manager. It's like the Contacts app on your mobile phone, and you can save your emails and phone numbers, etc., in there. I have set mine up, and we do show people how to put things into the address list. If you have Gmail, though, anyone who has access to the Gmail to the same Gmail email can put contacts into the address list, and they will sync to the BrailleSense 6. So if you're working with a child who's using Gmail and you have access to that Gmail as well, you can log in through Gmail and put contacts into the address list, and those contacts will synchronize. I want to send an email to Fanula. So I'm going to press Enter and L to look up Fanula's name in my address list.
Search for address, edit box.
So I'm going to search for Fanula. I'm just going to type in Fanula. That should be all I need to type, and I'll press Enter.
1 address is found. Fianula Murphy Sight and Sound Technology IE11 list item.
We'll have to get the BrailleSense to work on pronouncing Fanula's name a bit better, but that is the correct address. So I'm going to press enter because it has pulled up Fanula's email. Now, if there were more than one Fanula's, or if I had multiple email addresses for Fanula, I would have those listed and I could choose the one I wanted. So I will press enter here.
2. Fianula Murphy Sight and Sound Technology IE edit box.
And now you will see it has filled in Fanula's name and email address in the 2 edit box. Now, if I press the F3 key, I will be moved to the next field.
CC edit box.
The CC edit box behaves in the very same way as the 2 box. I can either type in an email address or I can grab it from the address list if I wish. I'll press F3 again.
BCC edit box.
And this is the BCC or blind carbon copy. If you want to use that, you can. I'll press F3.
Subject edit box.
And this is subject. So we'll just say hello. And
message body, multi-line edit box.
I'm just going to say, hi, Fanula.
Hi. Fianula, comma. Fianula, comma.
I hope
this
email finds
you
well.
Well, period.
Okay, now I can, just to have a bit of a proof of this email before I send it, I can jump to the top, and we'll be doing a lot of these commands next week, by the way, in the word processor. I can jump to the top of the email by pressing space with dots 1, 2, and 3.
Hi, Fianula.
And I'm reading it here. Hi, Fanula. I hope this email finds you well.
Blank.
I suppose I better put my name on it.
Enter.
So I'll type my name.
Stuart.
Okay. And now I'm going to send the email, and the command to send the email is enter and the letter S.
Sending. Successfully sent new message.
So there we
Unread.
go.
1 attached.
That email has gone to Fanula. Now, it is worth reminding you that sometimes students have these devices turned on and they're working away, and they expect the mail application to be a bit like the mail applications on our phones, where you get a little bing each time and it just says you have new mail. The BrailleSense 6 email application currently does not have that function, does not have that option to sort of grab email as it comes in. You have to manually check. I think it's something that will happen. We've asked for it, and I know a lot of people have asked for it, but currently that doesn't exist. If you want to check for email, the command is enter and N for November. So we'll do a check for email in a minute in case Fanula has sent us something back. But before that, I want to just browse the inbox for a minute and see what's here. So I'm going to go up arrow.
Unread. 1 unread Stuart Lawlery. Test 1-3 list item.
So this is a message that says so it's a reply to something called test. So let's press enter on this message to open it and see what happens.
Message body. Hello, this test seems to have worked. Stuart Lawler, head of digital.
I'm going to stop that reading because the sight and sound signatures are very long and it would read it all. When you open an email on the BrailleSense 6, the BrailleSense 6 starts reading immediately. You can also use your scroll keys, if you wish, to read the email in Braille. Now, this email that has been sent by Stuart Lawler, we want to reply to that. So I'm going to send a reply to this email, and I'm going to do that by pressing enter and the letter R. So let's do this.
Message body, multi-line edit box.
Now this time it brought me straight into message body. Obviously it didn't need to go through the 2 CC subject because it knows who that's to. That information is filled in already. And I'll say this reply
has
worked.
Worked, period.
And I'll press enter and S.
Sending. Successfully sent new message.
And that message has been sent. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about file attachments and how they work. Now, here's one of the places where you're going to see a difference in behavior to what is out there at the moment. The current email offering on the BrailleSense 6 allows you to receive and send file attachments, but it has slightly strange behavior. And this is something that we were asking the company for a while, and they did respond. Currently, if you get a file attachment on an email in the BrailleSense, you have to save it before you can view it. And we were saying for a while, wouldn't it be really nice if you could just open an attachment from the email itself rather than having to save it? Because not all attachments you want to keep. You might want to look at something once and that's it. You don't need to save it. So previously, and indeed currently, I suppose, within email on the BrailleSense 6, you open an attachment and it says the attachment will be saved in the downloads folder. And then you go off in your file manager to the downloads folder and grab the attachment. You can also configure a specific folder if you want, where the attachments are saved if you don't want to use the downloads folder. But now what happens, and I'm going to scroll down to a message that has an attachment.
This test seems to have worked.
Let me just...
Stuart Lawler read, unread, 1 attached. Stuart Lawler file attachment 2-3 list item.
File attachment. Okay, let's press enter here and see what happens.
Message body. Here is an attachment to review. Regards, Stuart Lawler.
Okay, here is an attachment to review. So how do we get to this attachment? Well, the attachment is connected to this email. We know that because we heard 1 attached. The quickest way to get to the attachment is to press space with B. It's the space with dots 1 and 2. And I always think of B for browse, and we'll be using space and B a lot next week in the word processor as well, by the way. So space and B.
Attach. peterwhite.txt 1.14 kilobytes 11 list item.
And the attachment is called peterwhite.txt. It's a text file. It also helpfully told us what size it was. It's a very small file, so it's going to open very quickly. So let's press enter now and see what happens.
Save or open file, save prompt button.
Now I get a new option that you won't have seen before, save or open file. So there's a save button is what it's on. If I want to do the open, I'll press space with dot 4.
Open prompt button.
And I'll press enter here.
File already exists. Overwrite, yes prompt button.
Okay, I opened this file last night. So let's just say yes, we want to open it again.
Download done. Attach. Loading. peterwhite.txt open.
Now I've got the file open. Let's see if it's open.
Born in Winchester, Peter has been blind since birth. Since 1995, Peter has been the BBC's Disability Affairs correspondent.
This was a bio we had for one of our presenters on World Braille Day at the beginning of the year. So I'm viewing the attachment. I say, yeah, that's great. It's interesting. I don't really want it. It's great. I've read about Peter. He's a great guy. So we'll press space and Z.
Attach. peterwhite.txt.
And back in the email, we'll do space and Z again to close that email.
1 attached. Stuart Lawler file.
And to be honest, I've read about Peter White. I don't need to read it again. I'll press space and D because this will delete the message. So let's do space and D.
Delete message. Yes prompt button.
That's prompting me to say, are you sure you want to delete? I'll press enter.
Deleting messages. Mail deleted successfully. Getting new message list.
And now it's going to check
Unread
for new
Fionnuala
messages.
Murphy read.
And we have a new message from Fionnuala. So when the BrailleSense 6 does an action, when it performs an action, so when it deletes a message, or if you close the email app and open it again, it will automatically check for new messages. You can do that manually, as I said earlier, by pressing enter and N. I'm just watching my time because I have a few more things to do, and then we will have questions. So let's have a look at what Fionnuala sent.
Unread Fionnuala Murphy read. Hello 3 list item.
So let's press enter on Fionnuala's email.
Message body. Hi Stuart, I'm fine thank you. How are you? Regards. Fionnuala Murphy Murphy.
Okay, I'm just going to stop that. Let's send a quick reply to Fionnuala, but this time let's send her an attachment. We've received an attachment, so let's send one to Fionnuala. So I'm going to press enter and or to reply.
Message body. Multi-line box.
I'm very well. Thanks, Fionnuala.
Thanks. Fionnuala, could you
please review this
attached trademark sign period. Space.
That wrong.
CH.
So let me fix that.
Adamant. Space. T. 56. A.
Okay.
Attachment.
Okay,
Space.
so here we go. We've written the message to Fanula. Could you please review this attachment? Now we're going to add an attachment to this email. To add an attachment, we press Enter and F. And if that keystroke sounds familiar to you, you would be correct, because Enter and F was also used last week to create a new folder in the file manager. In fact, it has multiple uses across the BrailleSense 6. So let's press Enter and F.
Attach file dialog. No items list item.
Now, when it says attach file, it automatically looks in the uploads folder, and I don't have anything in my uploads folder. I do have some things, I believe, in my documents folder. So I'm going to press the backspace key here once to bring me out of my uploads folder and bring me into the main flash disk. Do you remember we looked at flash disk last week when we were looking at the file manager?
Upload folder 1719 list item.
So I'm going to press D to go to documents.
Daisy folder 3, database folder, documents folder 519 list item.
And I'll press enter.
English folder 111 list item. First science folder 5
all the
exclamation point
subjects we made last week.
Lawler HBL 711 music November 17th Scoop Foundation. Stewart.docs 1011 list item. Testdemo.docs 1111 list item.
I have no idea what these are. We'll attach this document anyway. For Fanula, we press enter.
One attached. Testdemo.docs 7.21 kilobytes 11 list item.
And it says one attached, and it shows me now, it brings me into brings focus to the attachment so I can see that it has been attached, and I'll press enter and S to send this attachment.
Sending. Successfully sent new message.
Took slightly longer
body.
to send it, by the way, because it is
Find
an
new
attachment. Now, what about if I wanted to forward Fanula's email to somebody else? So I open Fanula's email.
Message body. Hi, Stuart.
And if I want to forward Fanula's email, guess what? I'm going to use Enter and F again.
2. Edit box.
So Enter and F has different functions even within the email application, depending on the context. If you're in a message, in the body of a message, Enter and F will allow you to add a file to attach to the email. But if you're in a message that you have received, Enter and F can be used to forward that message to somebody else.
Currently writing mail save. No prompt but message body.
And I did get a prompt there to say, you're currently writing email. Do you want to save this? If you do save, by the way, the email goes into your drafts folder. And in the case of Gmail, that will synchronize with the Gmail drafts.
Fiannuala Murphy Reed.
Now, last thing I want to show you before we take questions is searching within email. This is not a great example of it because we have very, very few messages, and they're all either from Fanula or myself. But if you had a large inbox and you wanted to search for something, just let me show you how this can be accomplished. We'll press space with the letter F.
Text to find. Edit box.
Text to find. This is where you type in the text you want to find. So this could be a partial subject. It could be somebody's name. It depends on the criteria you're going to use for your search. So let's look at the criteria in a sec. So we'll press the F3 key to move to the next field or option.
Range. All 1-5 combo box.
So the range here is currently set to all. That means it's going to search using all the criteria, but we can narrow this down by pressing space with .4.
Subject 2-5 combo box.
Subject.
Date 3-5 combo box.
Date.
From 4-5 combo box.
From.
To 5-5 combo box.
Or to. You could probably use all to get the widest search. And if you only have a relatively small amount of messages on your device, this is going to search more quickly. The other things you can do that we haven't managed to cover this evening, you can move between folders within an email account, and you can create new folders. You can move messages into folders, and you can even manage your spam filters using the BrailleSense 6. It does have a spam filter tool built in. I'm not really sure that it is necessary to know how to use that, because cloud-based services like Google and Microsoft already have pretty good spam filtering built in. Okay, so in summary, email application It's very useful. It's very flexible. It's gotten better, for example, to be able to open an attachment within an email. It won't quite have all the functionality of an email that you might find on your mobile device. And if students want to be notified when emails come in automatically, there are other ways that can be done using something like the Gmail app to give the notifications, and then the BrailleSense 6 email app can be used to read emails. We're often asked by teachers, especially maybe sighted teachers who just have never seen this technology before, why can't users just use the Gmail app? And the answer is they can, but it's not going to be it's not going to be an efficient experience, I suppose, or a fluid experience for them to do so. And you could say the same for something like Google Docs or Microsoft Word. These applications can be used, and yes, they're mainstream, but are they the fastest tools and the easiest way for a visually impaired person or a Braille user to get access to information? And I would argue that they're not. And, you know, when you're trying to compete in school, in a mainstream school, you need to be able to do so, you know, as fast as or faster than everybody else at some points if you can. And when we go to talk about reading, by the way, in 2 weeks' time and accessing textbooks, you'll see an example of how a Braille user can definitely be faster than print users who are using textbooks. So I think we've done a fair amount of email tonight, and thank you for bearing with us, especially through the setup, because that wasn't easy, but I did want to give you a glimpse at it. I hope people don't have to do that. And if you do need to do an email setup, do get in touch with us. But I'm happy to hand it over to Fionnuala to see if there are any questions or comments. And of course, if there aren't, people can still raise their hand or put something in chat if you wish.
Thanks, Stuart. Never heard my name pronounced so weirdly so many times.
So badly. I think actually they don't. One of the things that you don't have in the BrailleSense is a dictionary that would help pronounce that better. We have it in JAWS.
Okay.
JAWS still doesn't do your name very well. We have to work on that. So yeah, if we have any questions, any comments about email, and maybe again, as we said last time, there may be a space here where people just want to share their tips. Maybe other people have used email, different email accounts, or maybe you have tips about how you've done that, or your email stories, good or bad, on the BrailleSense 6. And I don't think it looks like we have anything at the moment.
Yeah, nothing just yet. Anyway, everybody's quiet tonight.
I hope that email setup hasn't completely put people off. I think the other thing I would say, I'll just say very briefly about email and configuration and setting up. Many services now like you to authenticate with something else. So when you sign into, for example, Gmail, I didn't have it for this account because I wanted to keep it simple. But when you sign into Gmail mostly, or Microsoft, they will send a notification to another device. It could be a parent's device, could be a teacher's device, it could be one of your own, it could be maybe your phone, and ask you to validate that it is you. So that does happen as well with the BrailleSense 6.
Oh God, sorry, I pressed the wrong thing now. There was a comment there. Oh, just a few thank yous, Stuart. That's it.
Okay, brilliant.
Yeah, everybody happy enough?
Thank you, everyone.
Sorry, one question,
okay.
Stuart.
Okay.
Could the BrailleSense 6 we have in school need an update? When entering the email folder and getting on accounts manager dialog, I can only see POP3, IMAP and Exchange.
Yes, definitely needs an update. Let me give you a shortcut key to check that. This is a useful keystroke for everyone.
Fionnuala Murphy read. Hello 3.3 list item. File manager. So
to check the firmware or the version of your BrailleSense 6 software from the main menu, you have to do this from the main menu from File Manager. Press space with V.
BrailleSense 6F.
And you'll see this BrailleSense 6 version. It should be 1.7. You can see mine is slightly different here, mine is 2.0, but you should have 1.7. That's what everybody needs to have. 2.0, which is the one that's on screen now, is going to be released within about, we might even have it by the time we're all finished on this course, who knows, but I would hope 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks. So if you don't have 1.7, yes, you do need an update, and get in touch if you want.
That's great. Thanks, Stuart.
So thanks, everybody. Thanks, Fionnuala, for moderating for us, as always. So next week, when we come back, we're going to look at the word processor. There's quite a bit to cover. So do come with your word processing questions if you like. We will send out the video to this session in the next little while.
Yeah.
And if there is any more questions in the meantime, please do get in touch with us. And thanks a million, everybody, for coming along, as always. Take care.
Great. Thanks, Stuart. Oh, I better press stop.
Brilliant. Thanks, Fionnuala.
No worries. I'd lost the stop recording button there for a sec.